I'm moving in with my parents today. If you don't like it, we can divorce and you can leave. Ryan stood defiantly, with a smug look on his face as he looked at me. Then you're fired and can leave the company. I confronted Ryan with my true feelings. I sighed softly and looked at Ryan with cold eyes. Ryan, seeing my gaze, tensed up visibly. Anxiety spread across his face. My name is Kelly, 44 years old. I run a company that manufactures vehicles and parts for transportation. The company was founded by my grandfather, making me the third generation. It's a family-run business. Originally, I had no intention of taking over the company and wanted to lead a normal life. I wasn't particularly good at school and planned to find a job at a general company after graduating. In fact, I landed a job at an IT company. However, when I was 26, my parents died in an unexpected accident. I have an older brother who loves research and is always holed up in his graduate lab. My father left a will stating that I was to become the next president of the company. After that, it felt like I was on a roller coaster. I quit my current job and joined my father's company. The role of president was temporarily filled by the executive vice president, and I worked hard to learn the job. I worked tirelessly, sparing no moment even for sleep, to learn everything about the products we made and how to manage the business. At first, people treated me delicately, as if I were a delicate flower, but gradually they opened up to me. Gradually, I found the work interesting and became president at the age of 40. I've lived for my work, dedicating my life to the company. As everyone around me got married, I didn't have a single boyfriend. I always prioritized work over leisure. I traveled domestically and internationally for the company, so much so that I hardly remember holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving. Because of this, my relatives started to nag me about finding a successor. Every time I met relatives at gatherings, they would insensitively tell me to hurry up or I won't be able to have children. Aren't you lonely? Some would ask. I knew arguing would only bring more nagging. So I just smiled wryly and left the conversation quickly. Thanks to dedicating my life to the company, our performance steadily improved. Incorporating IT played a big part in this. I started to have a bit more free time and could enjoy my leisure time. That's when I met Ryan, and we met through bowling. A client recommended it, and I took it up lightly, finding it suited my personality and got quite into it. I even bought my own ball and shoes and started participating in tournaments. Ryan was someone I frequently saw at the bowling alley. He was fun to talk to, taught me many things I didn't know, and we even entered tournaments as a pair. After going out to eat several times, Ryan confessed his feelings on one of those occasions, and we started dating. Ryan is the same age as me, but often looks younger, sometimes even in his 20s. I've often been mistaken for his older sister. You probably think I'm unreliable, he would say, looking embarrassed every time. Ryan has many hobbies. From baseball to soccer and golf, he not only likes watching sports but also playing them. Influenced by him, I took up golf. It wasn't just sports, he also took me to concerts and theaters. Ryan introduced me to a world I never knew, and I became completely captivated by him. The time I spent with Ryan was very stimulating and fun for me. My first boyfriend at 44. It wouldn't be strange for me to feel elated. Amidst these light-hearted days, Ryan suddenly said something unexpected. Would you meet my parents? I was at a loss for words at his sudden request. If I'm gonna marry, it's gonna be you, Kelly. I want to introduce you to my parents. It has been about 2 months since we officially started dating. It felt a bit early, but I wasn't young anymore. I wasn't without my anxieties. But I was also happy. I had no intention of refusing. A week later, we visited Ryan's family home. The house was neatly arranged, with a faintly pleasant smell. In the living room, Ryan's dad and mom welcomed us. Ryan's mom had an elegant air about her, with her hair dyed a beautiful shade of purple. My son is lucky to be dating someone as adorable as you, she said with a beaming smile. You're truly a wonderful young lady." Receiving such praise made me feel a tickle of unease on my back. Ryan's parents continued to shower me with compliments until I blushed. Ryan, sitting beside me, looked proud. "Right? Finding someone like her at 44 is a real catch," Ryan said with a laugh, but I felt a bit uncomfortable with his wording. A sense of unease began to spread in my chest. But Ryan and his parents were all smiles, making me think that getting along with such lovely in-laws after marriage would be possible. The anxiety I felt earlier vanished. However, I noticed Ryan calling his parents mommy and daddy. I used to call my parents mommy and daddy too, but is it common for adult men to do the same? It seems rare. Perhaps I'm just out of touch with societal norms. Having lost my parents early and being focused on work, I admit I'm not well-versed in social conventions. I decided not to dwell on it, assuming it's just me being unconventional. Surely, Ryan must have a good relationship with his parents. Ryan often praised his mother, which is usually a good thing. However, when we were talking about cooking, Ryan made a comment that felt off. "Mommy's meatloaf is the best in the world." He even slightly belittled the meat and potatoes I made. "Kelly's meatloaf just isn't as good as Mommy's." Hearing this, I couldn't manage a smile. "Perfect, you should get the recipe from her," Ryan said in a tone different from usual. Why was he being so authoritative? Unaware of my ambiguous expression, he exchanged smiles with his mother. Ryan's mother started writing down the meat and potatoes recipe. "With this, Kelly, you can make something similar to Mommy's." I was unsure whether to be happy or not. My expression turned into the vague smile I reserve for relatives. As the evening grew darker and it was time to leave, the conversation turned to marriage. "I'd marry you right now if I could. It'd make life easier, especially since freelancing doesn't pay much," Ryan said, shocking me. "What? Freelancer?" My eyes widened. Ryan had said he worked in sales. I hadn't told him about my job either. I just worked at a company making parts. I was embarrassed to say I was the CEO, but I had no idea Ryan was a freelancer. Stunned, Ryan snapped at me. "You thought just because he's 44, right? There's a deep reason behind it." Apparently, Ryan's mother has always been frail and sickly. Moreover, 2 years ago, his father became seriously ill and needed care. Ryan, who was working in sales at a printing company, quit his job to take care of his father and became a freelancer to manage his time for caregiving. "It's tough on Mommy alone. I just wanted to be there for my parents," Ryan said, tearing up. I listened solemnly. "I thought it'd be okay to continue freelancing for their sake." Glancing at his parents, Ryan nodded. "Daddy's been doing better lately, so I'm considering re-entering the workforce, especially now that I'm marrying Kelly. I gotta step up," he said, sniffling. I felt ashamed for feeling disappointed upon learning he was a freelancer. Ryan had simply prioritized his parents over his job. What a kind and warm-hearted person he is. All my previous anxieties and discomfort had completely disappeared. A few days later, I made a suggestion to Ryan. "Why don't you try applying for a position at my company?" Ryan seemed surprised by my sudden proposal. "Only if you're okay with it, of course." I was careful not to pressure him. Ryan seemed hesitant about working at the same company as me. "Our sales department is actually short on people. It would really help if you could join." I chose my words carefully, not wanting to hurt his pride. "You'd be in a completely different department from me." However, Ryan's concerns were elsewhere. "If I'm gonna work, I want to earn. I want to make Mommy feel secure." It was all about the money, then. Did he think I wasn't earning enough? So, I pulled out my tablet and showed Ryan our company's job site, detailing the average salary, holidays, paid leave, and benefits. "This might not be too bad," Ryan said, looking over the tablet with growing interest. Just as the company was looking to significantly expand its sales team, Ryan was hired without a hitch. I had informed my secretary about Ryan's application from the moment it was submitted, thinking I might ask her to handle any potential issues in the future. I also had another request for the secretary related to our website. Ryan and I decided to get married as soon as he got the job. We didn't have a ceremony. I didn't want my relatives to know, and I wanted to keep it a secret from Ryan that I was the CEO. I was surprised how easily his parents agreed, fearing they would object. His mother was only concerned about how often we could visit their home. Instead of a wedding, we held a small dinner at a restaurant and postponed our honeymoon. I was busy with work, but Ryan also seemed unenthusiastic about a honeymoon. Can't be away from mommy and daddy, can I? There it was again. Mommy and daddy. It just didn't sit right with me. We decided against moving into a new house recommended by a real estate agent. Considering Ryan's freelancer status, it seemed best to avoid unnecessary expenses. After some thought, we chose my apartment as our new home. Ryan agreed. Probably because it was closer to his parents' house. After moving in together, Ryan's attitude began to change. He started looking down on me. Which department are you in? Ryan didn't seem to see me as a business owner. I didn't intend to keep it a secret, but I preferred it not to be widely known. Then, Ryan said something unbelievable. Well, it doesn't matter. You'll be quitting anyway. I was shocked. Quit? Who's quitting? What was he talking about? Was it not Ryan, but me who was supposed to quit? A bad feeling washed over me. Ryan glanced at me and smirked with an unfamiliar, unsettling smile. I felt a chill. Got a problem with that? Ryan looked at me coldly. My heart is racing. I managed to say I had no intention of quitting my job, clutching my chest. Then it hit me. Maybe Ryan wanted children. Are you thinking about when we will have kids? Our company has excellent maternity and paternity leave. Ryan interrupted with something unbelievable. Kids are out of the question. Got my hands full with mommy and daddy. I was confused, tilting my head. Ryan sighed heavily, exasperated. My parents, I told you. They need care. His sudden loud voice made me tense up. I tried to respond. I heard about your father's condition, but you said he's been doing better, which is why you re-entered the workforce. Even if he's better now, they're both old. Ryan snapped, anger flaring. Aren't you worried at all? His yelling filled the room, leaving me bewildered. I tried to calm down and sort through his words. It seemed Ryan intended to push his parents' care onto me, expecting me to quit my job to focus on it. After venting, Ryan smirked. Well, I won't ask you to quit immediately. Dual income brings in more money, after all. It seems my earnings were now the priority. We'll be going back to my parents' house on our days off. Every week? I intended to help as much as possible, but being pushed to provide care every week was too much. What surprised me the most was Ryan's attitude. Before we got married, Ryan was a fun-loving person with many interests, always finding joy in everything and reliably positive. I was at a loss for words by how much he had changed. Especially since a real estate agent had contacted us about a new house close to his parents' home, which was highly sought after, and I had gone ahead and signed the contract, hoping it would bring back the old Ryan. Now, the thought of going to his parents' house filled me with dread. Yet his parents always welcomed me warmly. It's good of you to come. We have some cookies someone gave us, let's have them together. His father said with a smile that reached his eyes. Sorry to have you come over on your day off. His mother said, showing great consideration for me. No, not at all. Having Kelly here makes it feel like my daughter has come home. His mother said, her eyes welling up with tears, and I felt the same warmth in my eyes. I decided to proceed with the new house purchase, thinking it would be all right with his parents around. His mother always prepared my favorite sweets whenever I visited, touching my heart each time. Despite not wanting to be dictated by Ryan, seeing his mother's happy face made me feel at ease. Eventually, Ryan and I started visiting his parents' house separately due to my work schedule, making it impossible to visit every weekend. Sometimes, I had to spend weekends out of town on business trips, so I made up for it by visiting during the weekdays. One weekday, I headed to his parents' house, familiar enough not to ring the doorbell. As I quietly entered and headed to the living room, I heard Ryan's voice, which was odd since he was supposed to be at work. Approaching the living room, I overheard a disturbing conversation and stopped to listen. "She's not very considerate, you know, and terrible at housework," said his mother, a tone I had never heard before. "Couldn't you find someone better?" It sounded nothing like the kind and gentle woman I knew. I felt a tightness in my chest. My hands are going cold. After all the praise and gentle moments shared, to hear such harsh words was shocking. I couldn't bring myself to leave, even though I didn't want to hear any more. Ryan's sly, smooth voice followed. "Sorry, Mommy, but she's pretty sturdy and should be good for physical work." I felt a growing revulsion towards Ryan. "It's all about training. With the right guidance, she'll be useful," he said. "I'm not Ryan and his mother's servant or slave. For now, we need her money, so we'll put up with it. We have high hopes for the future." They continued, laughing carelessly. I felt dizzy, my heart sinking. Despite the shock from Ryan's words, his mother's betrayal hit me harder. All her kindness, the shared moments of laughter, the cooking lessons. Was it all an act? Always smiling, sometimes with tears in her eyes. Was that all just an act? If so, staying in this marriage out of concern for her was a waste. It seemed I was merely seen as caregiving staff. And then, the final blow from his mother. "For now, we'll keep praising her, making her as happy as a fool." I felt faint. Her harsh words unending. "Learn from me how to manipulate her. And guess what? She bought a house nearby," Ryan said, sounding pleased. "How did he find out?" "The real estate agent called the house." I realized the real estate agent had called our home. A mistake on my part for not insisting on mobile contact only. "Isn't that great? Now we can make her work even harder for us," his mother said with a disdainful laugh. I had heard enough and quietly left the house. My grip on my phone so tight my hand was numb. On my way home, I sent Ryan and his mother a message saying I suddenly felt unwell. If I had known it would come to this, I would have never married. The word divorce was floating around in my head. I've always been someone who acts quickly once I've made up my mind. I always choose regretting doing something over not doing it at all. In society's eyes, divorcing so soon after getting married might seem bad. But considering the time spent with someone I dislike, sooner seemed better. I couldn't stand living with Ryan anymore. I immediately prepared the divorce papers. I'll also cancel the new house contract. If not handled well, I could lose my assets through property division. However, I think I'll be okay if I use Ryan's emotional abuse as leverage. I have both an excellent consulting lawyer and a sincere secretary on my side. After making my decision, I decided to act more cautiously. I avoided confronting Ryan and continued to pretend to be submissive. According to reports from my secretary, Ryan had caused several problems at work. This was just the tip of the iceberg. It seemed that divorcing Ryan wouldn't be enough to sever ties completely. I wanted to resolve the workplace issues quickly and then proceed with the divorce as soon as possible. And I decided to keep it a secret that I am the president of the company. If Ryan or his parents found out before the divorce, it could complicate things. Although it was embarrassing, I told my secretary everything. With her help, I steadily prepared for the divorce. Life with Ryan was suffocating, and I felt like I wasn't truly alive. Once I had a plan in place, I ran into Ryan at work. "Perfect timing," he said, approaching me with a full smile. He pulled me into an empty meeting room. You're hiding something from me, aren't you? Ryan's sneering laugh sent shivers down my spine. I heard you bought a house. Got a call saying it's ready to move in. I sighed inwardly. So, that was it. I'm moving in with my parents today. If you don't like it, we can divorce and you can leave. I was utterly disgusted. It seemed the time had come to face Ryan directly. He stood defiantly, smirking at me, thinking I would admit defeat and comply with his demands. The days of listening to him for his mother's sake were over. I had thought his parents were good people who cared about me. But after seeing his mother's true nature, I had no intention of confiding in his parents anymore. Then you're fired and can leave the company. I smiled at Ryan and confronted him with the truth. Huh? Ryan let out a perplexed noise, but probably thought it was some weird joke. He quickly regained his composure and laughed it off. Fired? You're not my boss. Have you lost your mind? I sighed softly and looked at Ryan with cold eyes. Seeing my gaze, Ryan tensed up. Anxiety spread across his face. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. The funny thing is you not knowing the face of your company's president. I showed Ryan the company newsletter featuring an interview with me as the president, with my photo included. Ryan stared at the newsletter as if trying to bore holes through it, then looked back at me. You? No way, you're lying. His face drained of color as he muttered to himself. Got it now? Ryan seemed to collapse on the spot as if all the strength had left his body. No, it's not like that, Kelly. I didn't know anything. He pleaded, trembling and his voice shaking pathetically. Didn't know? No, you just didn't bother to find out. He could have known at any time if he wanted. The company newsletter was available in the break room and cafeteria, and a simple search on his smartphone or PC would bring up my photo. Even if the company website was deleted, my photo could still be found online. Simply put, Ryan wasn't interested. He lacked passion for his work, thus being relegated to menial tasks within the company. To him, the only important things at work were income, time off, and benefits. I was just another unimportant thing to him. But I needed more. We're not done here. We haven't finished talking about the divorce. Ryan visibly panicked. Do you even understand what you're saying? He never thought I would agree to a divorce. Yes, I can't become the ideal lady you want me to be. So, divorce is the only option. I pulled out the divorce papers from my bag. I had kept the divorce papers with me ever since I decided to divorce. Do you realize what you're doing? Ryan looked incredulously between the divorce papers and me. I took out a pen and placed it on the table. Sign it quickly. Ryan was frozen, his face drained of color. Oh, not divorcing? Was it all talk? Snapping back to reality, Ryan slammed the divorce papers on the table and signed them hastily. Now we are strangers to each other, I stated matter-of-factly. Don't come to regret it. Talking back to your husband is a failure as a wife, Ryan said mockingly. Good riddance. A woman who chooses her job over mommy and daddy, glad to be rid of you, he added, sounding like he was making excuses. Oh, my apologies, I replied calmly, not minding his comments. What are you going to do after divorcing? You know how sad my parents will be without you? Do you understand how lonely they'll feel? How ridiculous. They talked behind my back together. I was so angry that I couldn't find the words. I wanted to lash out at Ryan right there, but all I could do was clench my teeth and glare at him. Taking advantage of my silence, Ryan continued to berate me. Poor mommy and daddy, they said they're hungry and there's nothing to eat. So what? There are stores and supermarkets near their house. Go back to your parents. You can still make amends. Ryan arrogantly ordered me around. His parents aren't so immobile that they require care. It's just laziness. Enough is enough. We are strangers now. And I have an important meeting to attend today, I managed to say. Anger brought me to a state of calm clarity. If it's so important, you should take a leave and go yourself. I refused to sacrifice my important company for the likes of them. I've been patient and obedient enough. Ryan, not expecting me to talk back, stepped back. You're talking back to me? For a wife, that's out of line. I've said it multiple times, but I'm not his wife anymore. Plus, Ryan's values are skewed. He must think a wife is a slave to her husband, silently obeying. And he only imposes things that are convenient for him. What do you mean a wife's place? Who do you think you are? I confronted Ryan without holding back. He gritted his teeth in frustration. They're your parents. Why don't you take care of them yourself before pushing it onto someone else? If they're so important, Ryan can take a leave and visit his mother himself. His job was just organizing the storeroom. With no deadlines or external appointments. He could easily take a day off if he talked to his boss, but he pushes it onto me. His mother's condition can't be that bad. It's just a desire to use me as they please. Ridiculous. Why should I have to take a leave for them? He's so selfish, even about his own parents. Ryan's illogical reasoning seems endless. Listen well. Taking care of mommy and daddy is your job. I'm tired of hearing mommy and daddy. What do you expect from me? I don't expect a sensible answer, but I asked Ryan anyway. Ryan scoffed and replied, You're supposed to take care of everything for mommy and daddy. I couldn't believe how absurd Ryan was being. How shameless can he get? I'm a stranger now. Take a leave and go yourself. I stated plainly. Ryan choked up, unable to respond. The care of his mother shouldn't be pushed onto me, he should take a leave and handle it himself. To do nothing and complain only to me is outrageous. You would have been satisfied with anyone who would take care of your parents, wouldn't you? Ryan opened and closed his mouth, shaking his head. His face was pale. That's not true. If I had known Kelly was the president, I wouldn't have made her take care of them. Despite saying know your place as a wife earlier, Ryan quickly changed his tune. Deep down, I knew he wanted to exploit me to his advantage. And this was his way of flattering me. However, Ryan gave himself away with his next comment. With enough money, you can hire someone. There it was, the crux of the matter. Ryan always relied on others. So, caregiving is someone else's responsibility, huh? Are you planning to just play around with mommy while doing nothing? That's not it. Ryan said with a forced smile. Suggesting maybe a different future could have been possible if they had manipulated me better. The thought alone was horrifying. What if I hadn't known the true nature of Ryan's parents? I might have happily agreed to his proposals. There could have been a possibility where Ryan focused on caregiving, and I was the breadwinner. Ryan had squandered that chance himself. It might have been a stroke of luck for me. Ryan looked up at me with tearful eyes, pleading. Please, let's start over. We were good together, weren't we? Let's go places again. I remembered the various places Ryan took me on dates before we got married. The places you took me were fun. I acknowledged, and Ryan's face lit up. Perhaps thinking there was a chance. I was foolish to be deceived. It's been hell since we got married. I glanced at my watch, indicating I was in a hurry. Well, I have a meeting to prepare for. I'll contact you about the dismissal. Waving lightly at Ryan, I reached for the door to leave. Before I could open it, Ryan grabbed my left hand. Turning around, I found Ryan glaring at me. We're not done here. Getting fired and divorced, do you think I'll just accept that? Ryan confronted me with tearful eyes. And what's this about being the president? His words trailed off, and eventually, he let go of my hand. The divorce was Ryan's idea in the first place. And it was their fault I couldn't reveal I was the president. Ryan probably never expected me to accept the divorce. He thought threatening me with divorce would make me obey him. And my being the president must have been a shock. Not something an adult should do. Ryan clenched his jaw. likely regretting the money he had lost, but that was not my concern. It just shows how foolish you were, I said, and Ryan exploded in a reversed voice. Coward! Is it right for a big company's president to fire an employee just because of a divorce? That's tyranny. Whether he had lost his reason or was just being defiant, Ryan puffed out his chest. His thinking was too childish. Unable to accept what I said, he was just throwing a tantrum. Too tired to deal with Ryan, I covered my face with my hands. And Ryan grinned, thinking he had hit the mark. Right on target, huh? Should I make a scene? You'd be the one in trouble. I was exhausted. Though I thought about keeping silent, I pulled out a piece of paper from my bag. Reading the names written on it. Ms. Smith from General Affairs, Ms. West and Ms. Brown from Sales, and Ms. Ortega from Accounting. I then looked at Ryan, who was sweating. There are more names, you know. Ryan stepped back towards the wall, trying to distance himself. The names I just mentioned are of women you've been persistently hitting on. This issue was reported to me by my secretary. Complaints had come into HR, and my secretary informed me. The only person in the company who knew Ryan and I were married was my secretary. When I heard it from her, I couldn't believe it. That my husband was hitting on several female employees. And quite persistently, it seemed. I was so embarrassed by this revelation that I felt like my face was on fire. I was just trying to foster better relations among staff. Ryan made a pathetic excuse. As if such a lame excuse would work. Inviting them to a hotel, what kind of relations were those? Ryan was left mumbling, unable to form words. I had messages sent to my smartphone from the women as evidence. The content was embarrassingly cringeworthy. Ryan had no way out. He needed to face the consequences. Removing a troublemaker from the company is part of a president's job, I told him firmly. Ryan slumped, defeated. To further corner him, I pulled out an envelope from my bag. This is from accounting. It seems you've tampered with some receipts. Ryan reluctantly took the envelope, avoiding my gaze, and fell silent. A mama's boy who leaves everything to others, a womanizer, and on top of that, stingy. Ryan has been a nuisance not just to me, but to many others. It's a fact that he's the worst kind of person, yet I had believed in him. I'm disappointed in myself for not seeing his true colors. Anyway, you're fired. You will be held accountable. I turned on my heel and opened the door to the meeting room. As expected, Ryan didn't try to stop me. He was slumped against the wall, powerless. Well then. Enjoy your time with your parents at your family home. Ryan collapsed on the spot, mumbling something, but I left him behind and exited the room. After a while, my secretary brought me an official report. Following the report, Ryan was immediately dismissed for disciplinary reasons. I issued an apology to the female employees affected. In the name of the president, ensuring their mental well-being is not neglected, monitored through my secretary. Regular reports on Ryan's behavior also come through the secretary from a private investigator. According to the reports, Ryan, now jobless, returned to live with his parents. He tried to start working again as a freelancer, but then something unexpected happened. His father was diagnosed as needing care. And shortly after, his mother developed dementia. Ryan ended up caring for both his father and mother. His mother sometimes wanders at night, leading to sleepless nights for Ryan. Working during the day and caring for his parents afterward, he said he didn't have enough bodies to cope. I need help. Please provide some financial assistance. Ryan contacted me several times. If the divorce had been amicable, I might have helped. However, Ryan and his family treated me like a slave. There's no room for sympathy for such people. Each time, I responded to Ryan with a professional tone. I am unable to assist you. Please refrain from further contact. Should it continue, appropriate actions will be taken. After that, Ryan stopped contacting me. Deciding that I had enough of marriage after divorcing Ryan, I chose to live on my own. I kept the new house I had contracted and rented it out. It's on land likely to appreciate in value, so there shouldn't be any loss. Work is going well, and the company's performance is on the rise. Work has become my purpose in life, and I'm more devoted to it than ever. However, I can't quit bowling, which Ryan introduced me to. I still participate in tournaments and have joined a bowling community circle. Most members are older than me, providing a wealth of life experience to learn from. Recently, a man close to my age joined the group. Unlike Ryan, he's gentle, unassuming, and reserved. Yet, when he gets a strike, his joyous expression is so charming, I find myself secretly thrilled. For now, I keep telling myself that my job is my life. Someday, happiness will come my way, too. With that hope, I continue to dedicate myself to work every day.